My family is in the worst mess. Brooke doesn't talk to us. She's had twins. Those were the raw, heartbreaking words of Linda Hogan, admitting publicly that she and Hulk had been completely cut off by their daughter. It wasn't just a passing statement, not just another celebrity family spat tossed into the spotlight for attention. This was something much deeper. It came just months after Brooke accused her parents of mental and physical abuse, and it wasn't just tabloid rumor or hearsay anymore. It was being laid out in court. Brooke's testimony was not the rambling of someone bitter, but a carefully considered, devastating revelation about her childhood and the toxic household that had defined her life. For the first time, the facade of the Hogan family was being torn apart not by gossip but by sworn statements, evidence, and painful recollections that left no room for denial. This wasn't just another celebrity scandal. In the world of professional wrestling, the Hogan family had long been held up as something special, almost mythic. Hulk Hogan himself wasn't just a wrestler. He was a cultural icon, a larger-than-life figure whose charisma and presence had transformed wrestling from a niche attraction into a mainstream sensation. Alongside his wife Linda and their two children, Nick and Brooke, the Hogans seemed like the personification of the American dream. They were glamorous, wealthy, and adored by millions. They even allowed cameras into their home for the reality series Hogan Knows Best, which portrayed them as a loving, if sometimes chaotic family, trying to live normal lives under the bright glare of fame. To the outside world, they had it all. But what Brooke Hogan revealed shattered that picture completely. On March 27, 2025, at the age of 36, a new mother raising twins, Brooke decided that silence was no longer an option. She made the courageous and painful choice to share her truth, a truth she had been carrying for decades. A truth she said had left scars too deep to ignore. She described years of abuse, not just verbal but physical, moments where her parents, particularly her mother, crossed lines that no child should ever have to endure. She explained that she had endured extreme verbal and mental abuse since childhood, moments that often turned violent. This wasn't an impulsive decision. Brooke wasn't lashing out in anger. Her words carried the weight of someone who had spent years in therapy, someone who had processed trauma, documented patterns of behavior, and finally decided that speaking up was the only way forward. She described receiving cruel and humiliating text messages, being berated in public, being made to feel worthless at home. Each story was specific, clinical in its detail, and heartbreaking in its delivery. Her claims were given even more credibility when an unexpected voice echoed her testimony. Bubba, the Love, Sponge, Clem. His name is often linked to the family in controversial ways, but when he gave testimony during his divorce proceedings, his words were damning. He claimed he had personally witnessed Linda Hogan slap Brooke, call her vile names, kick her, pull her hair, and humiliate her, all seemingly unprovoked. He explained that Brooke didn't have to be disrespectful or rebellious to be abused. Sometimes she was just sitting quietly, just being a kid. And suddenly, she would find herself at the receiving end of rage and violence. That testimony was important because it suggested a pattern. Abuse wasn't happening in moments of conflict or out of parental frustration. It was happening randomly, unpredictably, and repeatedly. To outsiders, the Hogan household was the set of a reality TV show filled with laughter, drama, and love. But behind closed doors, Brooke was living in a world where violence could come without warning. This is what makes Brooke's revelations so shocking. To millions of fans, she was the cheerful teenager on Hogan Knows Best, smiling for the cameras, joking with her father, and navigating her dreams of a music career. The show presented Hulk as the protective father, always hovering around to keep her safe from boys and from the darker temptations of the entertainment industry. Linda was portrayed as the balancing figure, keeping Hulk's overprotective tendencies in check while supporting her daughter's independence. But according to Brooke, that was all a performance. The reality was completely different, and the show itself may have made things worse. Eric Bischoff, a former wrestling executive, once explained that the reality show actually accelerated the collapse of Hulk and Linda's marriage. It wasn't just a window into their home, it was a magnifying glass on their dysfunction, one that pushed them further apart. And for Brooke, it meant being forced to perform happiness while silently enduring abuse. Her testimony also revealed how she had been manipulated into defending her parents publicly, even when they were in the wrong. One of the clearest examples was in 2015, when Hulk Hogan's career nearly ended after racist comments from a leaked sex tape surfaced. The audio revealed Hulk making derogatory remarks about Brooke's dating life, using the N-word, and expressing disgust at the thought of her being with a black man. It shocked fans worldwide, and Hulk's reputation as an all-American hero crumbled overnight. WWE cut ties with him, sponsors fled, and Hogan was left disgraced. At the time, Brooke defended him publicly. She appeared in interviews, insisting that her father wasn't racist, that people were judging him unfairly. Her words seemed convincing, even heartfelt, but now, with the weight of her new revelations, those moments take on a much darker meaning. She explained that she had often been misled and pressured into standing by her parents, made to feel like she was their shield against public criticism. In reality, she now says she was manipulated, used as a pawn in their battles, while her own pain went ignored. And then came the even darker revelations about Hulk Hogan himself. Brooke's testimony opened the door to long-buried secrets about his personal demons, secrets that had shaped not just his life, but the lives of everyone around him. Hogan was not just the smiling hero in red and yellow spandex. Behind the curtain, he was a man battling addictions, betrayals, and self-destructive behavior that would ripple through his family for decades. One of the most devastating aspects was his addiction to prescription painkillers. For years, Hogan had been open about the toll wrestling took on his body. 10 back surgeries, countless injuries, years of punishment in the ring. But what he hadn't been honest about was just how dependent he had become on the pills prescribed to help him manage that pain. In an interview, Hogan admitted that he had gotten trapped in a vicious cycle. Doctors kept writing prescriptions. He kept filling them, even when he no longer needed them for genuine pain. He compared himself to a dog chasing a bone, rushing to pick up the pills because the habit had become stronger than the pain itself. Alongside the pills came alcohol. After matches, he admitted to drinking a dozen beers in one night, using alcohol to dull the pain of his battered body and the stress of maintaining his public image. For Brooke, that meant growing up in a house where her father was often absent emotionally, consumed by addiction, or volatile under the influence. It wasn't until 2023, just 2 years before his death, that Hogan finally claimed to quit drinking altogether. But by then, the damage was already done. Brooke's most formative years had been spent in a household defined by instability, where the man the world idolized as a hero was struggling just to function as a father. The scandals didn't stop at addiction. The leaked sex tape from 2006 revealed not just racist remarks, but also infidelity. Hogan had been recorded in bed with Heather Clem, the wife of his then best friend Bubba the Love Sponge. The tape was secretly made, but the betrayal was undeniable. Hogan had slept with his friend's wife, and when the recording eventually leaked, it spiraled into one of the most infamous lawsuits in media history. For Linda, the betrayals were nothing new. In her memoir, she accused Hulk of multiple affairs, including one with Brooke's close friend, Christiane Plant. For a daughter, learning that her father had been with someone she trusted was shattering. These weren't just lapses in judgment. They were actions that destroyed trust and fractured relationships forever. Even worse were Linda's allegations of physical abuse during their marriage. She claimed that Hogan had torn her clothing, slammed doors, and even held her down with his hands around her throat. She described living in fear, convinced that one day his rages might kill her. These weren't just marital arguments. They were moments of terror that defined the family's home life. And so, when Brooke spoke out in 2025, she wasn't just talking about isolated incidents. She was speaking about a lifetime of dysfunction, addiction, betrayal, and abuse that had been swept under the rug while the cameras rolled and the fans cheered. As Brooks' revelations spread, the world began to re-examine the Hogan family in a way it never had before. The smiling, tanned figures who had been paraded on television as the model of a modern American family now looked very different. Behind the fame, the money, and the carefully orchestrated public appearances, there was a family consumed by mistrust, betrayal, and trauma that had never been resolved. Linda Hogan's role in this saga cannot be overlooked. When Brooke came forward, many expected that, even if Hulk denied the claims, her mother would at least show empathy or seek reconciliation. But Linda's response shocked people almost as much as Brooke's allegations. Instead of comfort, Linda gave cruelty. In public statements, she called Brooke a narcissist, minimized her abuse by claiming she had only ever spanked her once, and dismissed the allegations as exaggeration. This wasn't a mother trying to mend a broken relationship with her daughter. This was someone actively attempting to discredit her child and protect her own image. Her words cut deep. By threatening legal action against Brooke, Linda showed exactly the kind of coldness that Brooke had described in her testimony. Rather than recognizing her daughter's pain, she weaponized the legal system and social media to undermine her credibility. For Brooke, it was a confirmation that the home she grew up in had always been about control, appearances, and denial. But Linda didn't stop at attacking her daughter. She also launched new assaults on Hulk Hogan's reputation, accusing him of being a compulsive liar and a sex addict. For many, this seemed like the ultimate hypocrisy, because while she may have been speaking truths about Hulk's destructive behavior, she was also guilty of perpetuating the same toxic environment that had driven Brooke away. It was a cycle of attack and counterattack, each member of the family airing more dirty laundry, each revelation darker than the last. Hulk himself didn't respond with humility either. Instead of addressing his daughter's accusations with compassion, he chose mockery. Posting a video with his wife Sky Daily, joking about rebooting Hogan Knows Best, Hulk treated his daughter's pain as nothing more than a punchline. He ate popcorn, shook his head, and dismissed it all as if her words didn't matter. It was the very definition of cruelty disguised as humor. This public indifference hit harder than any denial could have. It was proof to Brooke and to the world that her father, the man millions had idolized as a hero, didn't even have the decency to acknowledge her pain. And in doing so, he reinforced everything she had said, that for decades, her voice hadn't mattered. Her feelings weren't important, and that appearances were always more valuable than truth. As more of the Hogan family's dysfunction became public, the sheer scale of their collapse became undeniable. Hulk's addictions, his affairs, his racist outbursts, his abuse of Linda, Linda's cruelty toward Brooke, and Nick's own brushes with controversy. All of it formed a picture of a family torn apart by ego, substance abuse, betrayal, and denial. The tragic end to this saga came on July 24, 2025, when Hulk Hogan died of cardiac arrest at the age of 71. His passing should have been a moment of reflection on a legendary career, a chance for fans to celebrate the life of one of wrestling's biggest stars. Instead, it became another chapter in a story of pain. He died just months after Brooke's testimony, before any reconciliation could take place. There would be no apologies, no healing, no accountability. The chance for closure was gone forever. For Brooke, the timing was devastating. To speak out after so many years, to finally share her truth, only to lose her father before he could ever respond in a meaningful way. That's a burden she will carry for the rest of her life. And for fans, it forces a painful question. How do you reconcile the image of Hulk Hogan, the immortal hero of the wrestling ring, with Terry Bollea, the man who left behind a broken family and a legacy stained by scandal? The Hogan story is a reminder that fame is often a mask. For years, fans saw only the bright lights, the dramatic storylines, the larger-than-life hero who told children to train and eat their vitamins. But behind that mask was a man battling demons he couldn't control. a wife locked in a toxic marriage, a daughter carrying the scars of abuse, and a family that was never what it seemed. Brooke Hogan's decision to speak out was more than just a celebrity confession. It was an act of survival. It was a declaration that no matter how famous your parents are, no matter how carefully they craft their public image, your truth matters. It showed the world that even heroes can fall, that even the most admired families can hide the deepest scars, and that silence, no matter how well it protects appearances, only allows abuse to continue. Today, the Hogan family legacy is not what it once was. It is no longer just about Hulkamania, about the matches that defined a generation, or the reality TV show that entertained millions. It is also about the human cost of fame, about the way addiction and ego can destroy relationships, and about the bravery it takes for one person to break the cycle. For Brooke, her testimony wasn't just about exposing her family's secrets. It was about reclaiming her voice after years of being silenced, manipulated, and dismissed. And while it may have cost her what little relationship she had left with her parents, it also gave her something more valuable: freedom. The Hogan saga is a tragedy, but it is also a lesson. It reminds us that behind every celebrity image lies a real family, with real struggles, and that no amount of fame or money can erase the damage caused by abuse, addiction, and betrayal. It also reminds us of the power of truth, because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is speak the words that others don't want to hear. That brings us to the end of this story. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into the untold stories behind the headlines. And if you want to see more content like this, check out the videos appearing on your screen now.